Okay.
I like to see you do it.
You want to see me do it?
Yeah.
You want people to stay, right? Because I can't sing.
Everybody can.
They've heard me sing. I sang during the Christmas deal.
We don't sing.
Right. Okay. So, going to kick off a 3-night series starting tonight called Detours. Dead ends and dry holes. Sounds exciting, right? Because detours means you are going
The long way.
not necessarily, but probably most of the time it is. I mean, because how many of you have ever had a bad experience with a detour? Okay, you got to going somewhere and it just didn't go the way it should go. And because for me, with my detour that went wrong, one of the ones that sticks out in my mind that goes wrong, I'm going to tell a story on my wife's dad because it's funny. Because how many of you are familiar with how to get to Salina, Kansas? Salina, Kansas. Yeah, it's at the north, almost center part of Kansas. It's not a real big town, but there's 2 ways to get there. One way goes to Wichita and up, and another way goes to Kansas City and over. And so we leave to go to this deal in Salina, Kansas. And so we're on our way up there, and we get to Fort Scott, Kansas. Does everybody know where Fort Scott, Kansas is? It's in Kansas, so you're correct. Kansas is one big flat place. Okay, it's terrible to drive across. Okay, it's even when you get into Colorado, it still kind of stinks until you get to Denver. Okay, so anyway, we are driving up there in the dark, and we get to Fort Scott, Kansas, because there's this road we want to get on to get to Wichita. And he goes, "Hey, I know another way. There's a detour right here." So it's a big sign. You couldn't get on the road we wanted to get to. It said detour here, and he says, "Hey, if you turn right here, it'll get you right on the road we want to go to." And so I turned right where he told me to. I went the direction he told me to do, all that stuff. He falls asleep in the passenger seat, which is fine. I don't care. I'm used to driving. I drive most of the time when we go places, unless I have a headache or just have drove all day at work, then I make my wife drive. But we're driving, and I thought, man, I should be seeing some signs that say something about Wichita, so many miles or whatever. I wasn't really paying attention. It was foggy and it was raining. And then we get a little further, and he says, "Well, we'll probably stay the night maybe in Wichita." And I see this sign that says Overland Park, 8 miles. Does anybody know where Overland Park is? It's south of Kansas City. Okay, kind of off to Kansas City a little ways. I'm like, we did not go to Wichita. We went to Kansas City instead. So it still got me where I needed to go. It was just the opposite way we wanted to go. I wanted to go through Wichita and up. Instead, we ended up going all the way up to Kansas City and over because I wanted to stay out of big city. I didn't want to have to drive through it because Wichita really is not it's kind of a spread out big town if you've ever been in it. And plus it's flat. So you get up to Kansas City, it'll get hilly and kind of windy and all that stuff. And so the detour for us was not what I wanted it to be, but it's okay. So tonight we're going to talk about the children of Israel coming out of Egypt. So you're going to be in Exodus 13, I think. Yes. 13, 17 through 22. Does everybody remember the story of the children of Israel in Egypt? Does anybody know how that started? Can anybody tell me how the children of Israel ended up in Egypt to begin with? Not you.
Somebody else.
It's a true story, okay? Joseph. Yeah. You ever seen Joseph got sold into slavery by these people, then he got sold to the Egyptians, and then he got put in prison, and then he had some dreams and interpreted some dreams, and it got him out of prison, and he saved the Egyptians from this drought, brought his family, brought all of his Israelite people into Egypt, and they all lived a prosperous lifestyle until the Pharaoh that let them live there died, and the new Pharaoh is in charge, and he just don't remember all these promises and all this great stuff. So the children of Israel end up in Egypt, they end up in bondage, and what's God have Moses do? Let my people go. No, what? Did somebody say flood?
He said build an ark.
Build an ark. Well, they probably felt like they built an ark because they built a lot of stuff in Egypt. But anyway, so they didn't know that they were being abused or being whipped. Moses and his burning bush and all this stuff God does through him, and he goes and he leads the children of Israel out of it. And that's where we're going to get to whenever they leave Egypt. So exciting, right? So if you're in bondage for all these years being beaten, whipped, and all this stuff, and God comes in and saves you from this spot, and you start leaving this terrible, horrible thing, you should be excited. Do you know the story of these people? There's a whole lot of twists and turns and detours and some dead ends and some dry holes. So you're going to learn about these people and you're going to relate them to your life, because these people, I actually relate more to these people in the Bible than anybody else. Because you can read this book and go, oh, you idiots, you stupid people, you should trust God like this. Why didn't you trust God to take care of you? But are you any different? No, because see, today we'll be in here, we'll be all religious and holy because we're in church tonight and we think God's going to do everything for us, and angels and fluttering and all this stuff, and church things are going to be in your mind, and God can deliver you from anything, correct? Yeah, true story. But when you're in the middle of it or standing on the edge of it, do you believe that? In here you say, yeah. Out there you say, There's a whole lot of a lot of meh, a lot of nah. So you make all these noises. You don't really say a word, right? Correct? Jesus is thrilled. Okay, we're going to move on and see what God's word says, okay? So, verse 17, it says, when Pharaoh finally let the people go, so that's exciting, God did not lead them along the main road that runs through Philistine territory, even though that was the shortest route to the promised land. God said, if the people are faced with a battle, they might change their minds and return to Egypt. So God led them into a roundabout way. Has anybody been through a roundabout? Yeah, new drivers. When you see a roundabout, what happens to you? The same thing that happens to old people when they see one.
I don't mind roundabouts. I don't think they're all that bad. They're bad.
I mean,
They're just confusing.
because if you get a whole lot of cars in there at once, I think the worst one I see is in Carthage. Carthage and Webb City have one. But the ones in northwest Arkansas ain't that bad.
There's not very many of them.
Tell you the truth, they have plans to put one in on 37 Highway, either at Purdy or George's.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
No.
So you're going to be freaked out driving to Monette. Okay, so they do this roundabout thing, and so they head the wilderness toward the Red Sea, because that's where they want to go. But thus the Israelites left Egypt like an army ready for battle. So if you leave Egypt like an army ready for battle, what's your demeanor like?
Hey, I'll fight you. Ready.
You're leaving for battle.
Skill.
You're like, You're like Dwayne Johnson walking across in Fast and Furious or something. Okay? You got confidence, okay? You are marching out like you're going to go whip somebody, okay? Not necessarily angry. So Moses took the bones of Joseph, okay? That's why I wanted to tell you about who got them there with him. For Joseph made the sons of Israel swear to do this. He said, God will certainly come to help you. When he does, you must take my bones with you from this place. So not only are they leaving Egypt, they're taking a dead guy with them. So the Israelites left, I love the name of this, Succoth. They left the suck. Okay? Now, when I was overseas, a lot of things we would call, if it was bad, or there's certain places you'd call them the suck. So they left Succoth. So now you can remember where the Israelites left where? Succoth. They left the suck. So if anybody ever asks you now, this is how I have to learn. I have to word associate. So if anybody ever asked me a question, like one of my teachers would ask me, where did the Israelites leave from? I'd say the suck. The suck helped me remember, so I know the Succoth. Okay, and they camped at Etham on the edge of the wilderness. I didn't have a word for that, it's just Etham. The Lord went ahead of them. He guided them during the day with a pillar of cloud, and he provided light at night with a pillar of fire. That would freak me out. This allowed them to travel by day, because a cloud's not that intimidating, right? Yeah, a little whirlwind's not that big deal. But a big old pillar of flame coming down, because you had to have that one weird cousin that you were afraid was going to trip and fall into it. Okay? I've got him. Okay? So, I could bring you a video of my wife running and her head outran her once. Okay? And she's skidded across the dirt. It's pretty funny. And the Lord did not remove the pillar or cloud of fire from its place in front of the people. So, I didn't put the verses up there for you. How rude of me. So, we are going to talk. Yeah, you had to use your Bible. How terrible is that? That was crazy. Okay, so we're going to be talking about the discipline of detours. Okay, so when you see a detour, do you want to take the detour? Not really, because it means, if there's a detour there, what's it mean? It means there's something. Yeah, you could have road construction, you could have an accident, you could have whatever it is. Like this morning, there was a trash truck that took out a telephone pole up here at the Assembly of God Church. They couldn't have church tonight because a trash truck hits a telephone pole or an electric pole, jerks the electric wire out of the church, so they have no electricity whatsoever. And so there were people that were having to either take a detour or stop and just sit there. Now, when I drove by to go get Joe when he was yakking everywhere, it was cleaned up and out of the way, but I could see everything. So you have different things that make you have to do detours. It doesn't necessarily mean a bad thing, but it's an inconvenient thing, right? Okay, your direct path you wanted to take is now altered. And so if you have to take a detour, I'm going to tell you right now, how many of you love GPSs when you're going somewhere? You love that little thing that says, turn in 500 feet, turn left. Mine is set to Cookie Monster, okay? When we were, where were we at? And I had it set, we were at the Youth Evangelist Conference, and I had it set to this, she's like British speaking woman, and then I had it set to the boy band that would sing the directions to you. And so it was driving my wife crazy, and she was getting Waze. It's the only app to use. Waze is the best way because it will show you the cops, the construction, and everything that's in your path. I even marked the cops. I'm like, ha ha ha, and I hit the button. So I let them know, people know where the cops are at. So we're going to look at the detour that these people were having to take, because it says when Pharaoh finally let the people go. Okay, when Pharaoh finally let them go, what? Does anybody know how many plagues there were?
7.
No.
9.
10. 10. Do you remember all of them?
I know like grasshoppers.
Locusts.
I know what they're frogs.
Frogs. Oh man, the frogs. Can you imagine the frogs? The frogs all came out and they were in people's food. They were in their bed. They were everywhere. And then they all died, and they had to put them in a pile. Can you imagine what a bunch of dead frogs smelled like? Because I mean, I can't remember what the size of Egypt was at this time, but it's a big city. And so you have all these dead frogs everywhere, and it's going to stink like nobody's business. But man, some Cajun could have had a heck of a barbecue or a boil of some sort. Yeah. The water did turn to blood. The death angel was the last one, but it was so crazy because Pharaoh would be like, "Get him out of here," and then what would happen to his heart? It was hard, but who hardened it? God did. Now I want you to remember that. Remember that God hardened Pharaoh's heart every time. Does that make sense? That God would cause a guy to change his mind to not let his people go. They'd have a plague come through, and Pharaoh would say, "Fine, get him out of here." And then his heart would be hardened, and he'd say, "Psych, just kidding. You're staying." Another plague. Get him out of here. Hard heart. God would do it every time, harden his heart. All the way up to the death angel, which killed Pharaoh's son. And finally, Pharaoh's like, "Get him out of here." You ever wonder why God hardened Pharaoh's heart that many times?
Maybe because he's trying to kill the kings. Because he didn't want to do it for the right reason. Let him do it for the right reason.
It's a trust thing. It's a thing to show that who's in control, and it finally builds up to a point to where it gets there, and we'll get into that. But I want you to understand, we're going to read about that, where Pharaoh's heart is hardened again, and it doesn't make sense. So anyway, these people get out of Israel. God did not lead them along the main road that runs through Philistine territory, even though it was the shortest route to the promised land. God said if the people faced with battle, they might change their minds and return to Egypt. So what are the state of these people as they leave Egypt? It says they're ready for war, but what are they coming out of? Slavery, bondage. They're coming out of being whipped daily, starved, everything. I mean, they didn't have anything, because if you remember when Moses showed up on the scene, they doubled their workload, and they did not double their materials that they needed, so they worked them severely. So they are weak. So if you're involved in any kind of sport and the coach makes you run more than you're supposed to, or do whatever more than you're supposed to, does it make you tired? Yes. Okay, so they are walking out tired. But the war we're meant to fight, the war that's being fought right now, is it a physical war? No. It feels like it. If you were these people, it would feel like it, correct? Because you're weak, you're tired, your body's beat down. But is it really a physical war? It's not, because who's in control? God is. He's leading his children out of someplace bad, something that they're not meant to be in to begin with. So for you, can you relate so far? Do you feel like in any part of your life right now that you are leaving something that's exhausting? Or you're stuck in the middle of something that's exhausting, okay? Whether it be mentally or physically, you're stuck in something that's not right. Something at home's not right, something at school's not right, something at whatever circle of friends you have are not right. Some of you right now are fixing to graduate from high school. Are you standing at the edge of an exodus? Are you excited about it?
Well, sort of.
Sort of. There's a lot of unknown, because some of you are going to be on your own. And some of you may have some help here or there, but you start to enter into what kind of world? So they call it the adult world or whatever. Some of you are having to deal with adulting right now anyway, but you're being moved out of something that's kind of comfortable, but there's still some chaos in the middle of it. And are you expecting God to take care of you as you leave this stage in your life? In here, it's easy to say yes, right? But when you get out there, it's hard, because you are not meant, well, you're going to have a lot of detours, okay? For me, the biggest detours in my life that I had to deal with, jobs and relationships outside of high school. Because right now, do you feel like you're dealing with relationships? Well, of course, you're all lovey-dovey and trying to figure out who's cute and who ain't cute. And even my own 8-year-old son was telling the principal today about how it didn't work out between him and this girl because she's too controlling. Okay? So the struggle is real at 8 years old, okay? So the war we are meant to fight is not so much a physical boom, but in Ephesians 6:12 it says, "For we are not fighting against flesh and blood enemies, but against evil rulers and authorities of the unseen world, against mighty powers in this dark world, and against evil spirits in the heavenly places." I had a guy send me, I'm going to find it. He asked today to our group that I'm a part of with a bunch of youth pastors if anybody had heard of this lady, because I'm not familiar with a lot of the music that you guys deal with, but is anybody familiar with a Billie Eilish? Has to be demon possessed. Has to be demon possessed. Is a proclaimed satanic worshiper. If you are listening to this person, you need to burn it. You need to get rid of it. I mean, ditch it. Because this girl, they sent me the article that goes along with her videos, because one of them is "All Good Girls Go to Hell."
I didn't listen to that song.
Okay, I don't care if you listen to any of them. If you're supporting it, there's a problem.
When you pay for that, you're supporting her.
Yes. When you give it a view, you're supporting her. I just read the article. I'm like, I'm not viewing that video because I don't want to give her that. Because every time one of her videos gets viewed, YouTube sends her a check.
What about
I don't know. Any's too much. Because anything that's promoting good girls go to hell, I mean, you can look at me as being some overbearing adult or whatever, but there's things in this world you need to get rid of. And this is one of the things you can listen to all the, I don't care if you listen to lovey-dovey country music and the bees and hoes rap music, okay? I don't care. That's between you and your relationship with everybody else. But this is where you get into the problem. Because this article here, she says she's a self-proclaimed satanic worshiper. Get rid of it. Because if you let it creep in, It will get you. It's stupid. I don't know who she is, but she needs Jesus in a big way, okay? If God can get Kanye, surely he can get her. Whew. Okay? So, but that's what you're fighting against. If you could see the spiritual war going on right now around you, because the Bible tells us that there are demons and angels fighting right now around us, and it's hidden from your eyes. Would you want to see it?
No.
Can you imagine what they look like? What demons look like? May not be what you think.
I feel like they're gonna be very pretty because they're like, because you know how like the Bible says that God sends out like 1/3 of his angels. So I feel like they're pretty. Like they're not ugly like what we think they are, but they're pretty.
It's still got to be a violent thing to look at, because I think the angels are way more beautiful, and if they're fighting them, I don't want to see it. Okay, it would freak me out. I would sit in my closet with the door shut, sucking my thumb on more psych meds than you could think of. Okay, I don't want to see these things. So, the most annoying thing for those GPSs that are on your car, have you ever been riding with the person who just refuses to go the way it says to go?
Yes.
And they just keep driving. And what's it keep saying? Mine says recalculating. Recalculating. It'll say that over and over again. Then it gives you a new route. And it'll want you to go all the way up and turn around and come back just to get to where you're at and start over again. It's crazy. So these people who are leaving Egypt, they're not going through Philistine country because are the Philistines their enemies? If you know anything about the Bible, you'll say yes. So they are their enemies. And so if they're leaving Egypt, are they really ready for war? They're tired. You've got a bunch of old women and children and old men. Are they really ready to fight? Because if you send into war, who do you send in? Your best people, your strongest, your youngest, okay? Your Dwayne Johnsons, you send those in, okay? You don't go to war with your old women, your children, your old men, people that are weak, sick, whatever, because then you have to take care of them, right? Okay? I almost got Jesus. The spit row is for real. It's right there. Okay?
What about me?
I almost spit on you. That's why nobody sits there, because it's like...
Watch out for that, because he might spit.
It's like a llama.
And you're not a mama, then.
It's a drama llama. Not the Dalai Lama. So we leave Egypt. God says, I know this is the shortest path, but is it the direction you need to go? No. So are you okay when God says, I know you want to go that way. I know you want your life to go this direction, but right now I need it to go this way in a roundabout way to get to where I want you to be. Are you okay with that? You want to say yes, but no. You know, I was thinking, for me, like just the fact of marriage, 29 years old before I got married, I could have settled because I had friends like crazy that were saying, man, you ain't ever going to get married. You're getting old. You ain't ever going to get married. If you don't settle now, you'll be alone the rest of your life, or you'll marry some crazy lady or whatever that's been divorced 3 times and clawed her ex-husband's eyes out and all this other stuff. Okay, they painted a real pretty picture for me. So, was God putting me on detours because I was like, no, I'm not settling. I either get what I want or I get nothing at all. I could have forced it. I could have forced it. I only dated one girl really in high school. I could have forced it, but I didn't, because it didn't feel like God was leading me that direction. For some of you right now, may want a boyfriend, girlfriend so bad, but God knows you ain't ready because you would give in and have sex to whoever it is if you did. Does that make sense? There's a lot of young teenagers in high school that will force into a relationship because they feel like they're not enough if they don't have somebody hooked onto their arm, if they don't have a prom date, if they don't have a constant boyfriend, girlfriend. Do you know those? You may be those. There are those people that if they don't have somebody hooked to their arm, they feel like they're less of a person. But God knows that these people are the ones who will give in to sexual pressure by the opposite sex by anything, and that's bad. So God may be putting up a detour for you. Just because you don't have somebody right now don't mean you're a failure. I just hope you're not that one that's forcing it, that's making it happen. You can put up detour road signs all day long. Can people drive through them? Yes. God could have said, no, you're not going this way. Could those children of Israel said, we got this, and marched straight into Philistine country? Yes. They would have, and they'd been wiped out because God knew they were weak and tired. It doesn't mean they're bad. They were just not in a position to hold themselves up in a situation that would have been way worse than the long trip around. Are you tracking with me? Does it make sense? I'm not trying to attack you on your relationships in high school, but for some of you, the reason you may not have a boyfriend, girlfriend right now is because God's like, no, I need you to go the long way around. I need you to go all the way around, even through college, and get all the way around. Does it make sense that you can force into a love relationship? There are marriages that people have that they force into it because they feel like they have to. They feel like they're nothing. I had an uncle that went all the way through his life, never got married. He was a Spanish instructor at Joplin. You know what that dude had? That dude had money. That dude, he died exactly 12 years ago next month because he died right before Laura Jean was born that March. She's 12. He went to get a loan for his first pickup because he had paid for everything in cash his whole life. Bought every one of his cars in cash. He decided, you know what, I'm just going to get a loan and not drain my bank account on this last truck. And he goes to buy it, and they wouldn't give it to him because he didn't have any credit. Isn't that crazy? Yeah. So, successful guy. Nothing wrong with him. He had girlfriends, but he never got married. Don't let people, because this is a group of people, right? This is a whole nation traveling to the promised land. Could they have all just put their hands behind Moses and pushed him on through the detour? He could have. Why do you think God felt the need to send a pillar of fire and a cloud down? These people needed a visual of his presence. They had to see who was in control. You have the same opportunity. You have this book. You have this book that shows you in control. You have, and I'm not trying to put me on a pedestal, but you have me up here trying to give this to you. You have praise and worship music that's trying to give you the direction, trying to put a pillar in front of you. You have a prayer life if you use it, and it will give you direction. God knew they couldn't go that direction because it said if they got too beat up, where are they going to go? Do you remember? If they got too beat up along the way in Philistine country, God was afraid they'd go back to Egypt and be comfortable in the horrible place they were in. Is it easy to get comfortable in your bad situation? Yeah, it is. I know lots of ladies right now that are comfortable in bad situations. I seen a 22-year-old girl, busted up face, and this is our 4th or 5th time going out there. Just comfortable in it. God's got a long way around if you'll take it. So, the most annoying thing your GPS will say, in 100 feet, turn left to the wilderness. Sound great? Very. Oh, exciting. Because that's where we all want to go, right? The wilderness. Because A, we're weak and tired, and now I'm just going to take you off out in the sticks. Doesn't make any sense. Because how much had been going on? God would do this miracle, and then they'd get packed up, ready to go, and then they'd have to fall right back. God would get it to where they could go again with another plague, and they'd get charged up and ready to go, and then they'd fall right back. Finally, they got to leave. Should they be pumped up and excited? Yes. But would they have went if God would have said, I'm going to lead you out, but I'm going to take you the long way through the hard country? Would you have went? Would people want to be a Christian if you really told them what it was like to be a Christian? If you tell them they couldn't listen to whatever her name is, if it was wrong, would they still want to do it? If you told them they had to give up cussing, lying, cheating, stealing, murderous thoughts, sexual desires outside of marriage, would they want to do it? Probably not. Is it worth it in the long run? Yes. That's why I taught a class on hell a few weeks ago. That way you know what the alternative is. So God led them in a roundabout way through the wilderness toward the Red Sea. So not only is he taking them through the wilderness, now he's taking them through, taking them to a big old giant body of water. So now I'm going to take you through the sticks and I'm going to make you swim. Sound exciting? Okay? Because here's the deal. Moses couldn't go, hey, hold on. Let me flip through a few chapters here in the Bibles, boys, and we'll see how this turns out for us.
I think it's going to be hard.
Oh, it's going to be okay. It's right here in chapter 16. We're going to be fine, okay? Didn't have that. Does God ever tell you what the full story is of your life? Does he tell you how your relationship with your boyfriend, girlfriend in high school right now is going to turn out? Does he tell you how your mom and dad are going to turn out? Does he tell you how you're going to turn out? Do you wish he would?
No, sort of. Kind of.
I really wish.
Some of you want to know because you don't want to go through the wilderness and you don't want to go to the Red Sea because none of those objects look like anything you want to go to right now. Because now you're like, okay, I'm in the wilderness. I got to find my way through this crap. And then I got to get to the sea. So if you come to the sea, does that mean you have another detour? It could. Because you don't know down the road that God's going to split that water and get you through. So, God has a job for you. Do you believe that? You might believe it, but do you put it to work? There's people that need reached. You have a job. Do you have a job at school? Yes, you do. Is it a hard job? Yes, it is, because it's like a wilderness. Trying to talk to your classmates, trying to talk to your friends about Jesus, is that a wilderness? Yes, it is, because they're going to look like you just walked out of the wilderness. You're going to feel like you've been hanging out with monkeys or whatever. It's not comfortable. Was Paul always in prison? Paul was always in prison. He was in prison a lot, okay? Paul will tell you in his readings, if you read his messages in the Bible, that he was never comfortable. Because God never allowed him to get comfortable, because if you get comfortable, where are you? You're on top of the mountain. We all want to be on top of the mountain figuratively for our emotions and our feelings and life, right? But is that where you're intended to be? Because the mountain has two sides, up and down. If we hang out on top, do we actually care about those that are going down or trying to come up? Nope, because we're where we're at. I'm good. It's not my problem. We have a job to do, okay? God has a blessing for you. Do you believe that? What's the main blessing God has for you? Heaven, eternal life, salvation through Jesus Christ, correct? If there is somebody in this room tonight that does not have that blessing, I would love to help you with that. I would love to get somebody to help you with that. You may be standing at the edge or in the middle of the wilderness right now. How many of you feel like you are standing at the edge of a wilderness right now? You feel like you're fixing to walk into something that's not that fun. How many of you feel like you are standing in the middle of it right now? You are in the middle of sucketh. Some of you may be standing at the edge of the wilderness, fixing to come out of it. That's the place you want to be, right? You don't want to be just skidding into it. You don't want to be standing in the middle of it. Because what's a wilderness look like to you? Woods? Dark. Thick. It's horrible. Where did Satan take Jesus? To the wilderness for 40 days and tempted him. He didn't take him to the spa down the road. Okay? He didn't take him to Buffalo Wild Wings. Making you hungry? Okay? He didn't take him Chick-fil-A because Satan can't go in Chick-fil-A. Well, I say that. I know some people work Chick-fil-A that probably have Satan in their mind. You just can't do it. So, a promise that walks in the wilderness. Do you believe there's a promise that walks with you in the wilderness? Do you? Moses took the bones of Joseph with him, for Joseph had made the sons of Israel swear to do this. He said, God will certainly come to what? Help you. When he does, you must take my bones with you from this place. The Israelites left the suck. And they what? They camped. Now, they didn't just stop and hang out, okay? They camped. Has anybody been camping? Okay, what do? You pitch sticks. Because here's the misconception that a lot of people get about the children of Israel leaving Egypt. They think that it's constant walking. That they went straight out of Egypt, straight into the wilderness and straight to the Red Sea. If they camped, they did what? They stopped. They set up tents. They set up for a little bit, okay? You'll read later about Pharaoh and his army getting ticked because they had to make their own breakfast. They had to get their own straw together. So they chased after him. This didn't all happen in one day, okay? They camped out. So they're camped out at Etham on the edge of the wilderness. Why would they camp out on the edge of the wilderness? You certainly don't want to go in it. They're camped out there because we don't want to get, like 1 foot right here leaning a little bit. They don't want to get in it because the wilderness sucketh. Okay? So, the Lord went ahead of them. Did you catch that? Where'd the Lord go? Ahead of them. Whatever you're walking in right now, the Lord is ahead of you. He sees the stuff. We all know that these children, these people don't make it into the wilderness because they lost their ever-loving, or make it to the promised land because they lost their ever-loving mind in the wilderness. But, not that I'd have done it any different, because I'm stupid. The Lord went ahead of them. He did what? He guided them during the day with a pillar of cloud, and He provided light at night and a pillar of fire. How many of you would love a pillar of fire to just show up right in front of you right now, showing you what you're supposed to do? You'd rather have the cloud, because it's fluffier. It's like the toilet paper commercial. My pillow, yes. Okay? That's prettier. The fire freaks you out. This allowed them to travel by day or night. So they are on the move, but they do stop and rest. It says so because they camp, right? Okay, so they do all this. It allowed them to travel, and the Lord did not remove the pillar of cloud or pillar of fire from its place in front of the people. God will not remove His promise from you in whatever it is you're in right now. If you are doubting your salvation whatsoever, and you truly got saved the day you got saved, God will not remove that promise from you. It will stay with you no matter what. He will not remove the pillar of salvation or the fire of the salvation you have in you at all. It stays. Got it? Somebody asking Siri something because I heard her go off.
It's over there.
Terrible people. No, it's mine. What?
Dad.
Blame the kids.
No. I'm trying to figure out what it is. So, God guides. John 16:13. When the Spirit of truth comes, He will guide you into all truth. Same as when something is urging you, like, I need to get saved tonight. The Spirit of truth. What's the Spirit of truth? Who's truth? Jesus. Okay? The Spirit of truth. He will not speak on His own, but will tell you what He has heard. He will tell you about the future. What is your future? I'm not talking about, I'll just skip that. I'll get to a different part here. Your future. Have you ever seen the Then What video that I've showed before with Dare to Share?
Yes.
You go to school. Then what? You graduate. Then what? You go to college. Or job force. Then what? You get married, have kids, this beautiful family. You grow old, grandkids. You and my wife's perfect way that me and her die in bed holding hands, okay? There's a big question after my death. Then what? Any of you sitting here right now cannot answer the then what? You need to find out what the truth is tonight, because you are not here by accident. You are here because God wants you to walk out of here with that truth and not worry about the then what, because He wants that pillar of fire of salvation inside you, guiding you everywhere you go. Just as the pillar guided the children of Israel, so does the Holy Spirit lead you. Sometimes it's not important where we're going. It's what God is doing in us along the way, because sometimes where you're going, other people need you to go there. Leading others to Christ. Trying to do that tonight. Strengthening others. Do you feel like you draw strength from those people who have had to go a roundabout way? Who've had to go through junk, who have been stuck in the wilderness, who are stuck in it right now? Is it better to hold hands with someone in the wilderness or stand off by yourself in the corner? You want to have all the help you can get. Building your relationship with Jesus, because my prayer life is so much better if my life's uncomfortable. It shouldn't be that way, but that's how it is. When my mom was dying of cancer, how good was my prayer life? It's dadgum good, okay? Does that make sense? That's how much they cherish a good prayer life, okay? I don't know how God is speaking to you with what you're standing in the middle of. I don't know how God is talking to you with what you're standing on the edge of or what you're trying to run out. Because some of you can see the edge of the woods, but every time you get right next to it, God says, I need you to go this way a little further. And then you start to turn towards the edge of the wilderness again, and God goes, I need you to go this way a little further. Is that hard? Or do you just want to bust right on through his detour? Because sometimes he's trying to save you on what's on the other side of the edge of those trees that lead out of the wilderness. Because just because it's beautiful, don't mean it's right. Does that make sense? Detours are hard. They're as hard as holding a pop can. Do you want to push right on through? Are you comfortable enough and trust God enough to know that if he takes you this direction, other than the straight line you want to go, you're going to trust him enough to know he'll take care of you? It's easier said than done in here, isn't it, right? It's easy to say it in here. I don't know what tomorrow holds. But I got to go whatever direction he takes me. See, what are they having to do? A detour. They have to walk out in the rain to the other side. What are they walking through? The rain and the mud. It's not where they want to go because it's warm in here and it's kind, but God says, no, fire will shoot out of Doug's one bad eye. Don't make me use this thing. Okay, I will. I'll slap him. Okay. If you have, I got to go to a business meeting, but I'd encourage you to stay in here and talk. That's why I put that deal up there where you need each other. You don't want to do it alone. But if you came up to me right now and said, hey, I want to talk about salvation, phooey on that business meeting, they can figure it out on their own. I just want to make sure you walk out of here with that same truth. If you do have that, he even says as far back in Exodus, I won't leave you. Because how many of you has ever doubted your salvation? I have. And I have to go back and read things like that says, I still got this pillar of fire. The cloud's fine, but I love fire. I'm a pyromaniac. Ask my wife. I bought a leaf blower last week just so I could burn my woods off. I like that promise. Do you? If I haven't confessed to Jesus Christ that I believe he is who he is, and I've put my faith and trust in him, and I want to be fruitful and bring others to him, I'm saved. I've got a fire burning inside me that guides me everywhere if I choose to follow it. Or I can march straight off into Philistine country and get my butt whipped. You have decisions to make right now in relationships that you're involved in. You have the choice. You can march forward into places you're not supposed to be, or you can take the roundabout way and let God bless you. Anybody got anything before we close? Y'all a good looking bunch.